This is Gotham TV Podcast, episode 83, about Gotham, Mad City, season 3, episode 6, Follow the White Rabbit.
Hey, this is Drew Powell. I play Butch Gilzean on Gotham, and you are listening to Gotham TV Podcast.
Welcome back to Gotham TV Podcast. This is episode 83 of our podcast about Gotham. This is Mad City, season 3, episode 6, Follow the White Rabbit. I'm one of your hosts, Derek.
Hi, Gothamites. I'm one of your other hosts, John.
Yeah, great to be back at this episode.
Yeah.
Lots and lots of Jervis Tetch in this episode, just like we thought.
Oh, fantastic villain. Loving the Tetch.
Really good, isn't he?
Yeah, really good.
I kind of like this episode because it was a bit like Die Hard with a Vengeance, where they're being sent all across the city, sorting out clues and solving clues. So, in case you haven't guessed, this is our spoiler-filled review of this episode. So make sure you do watch it before you continue through the podcast. Have you watched it? Yeah, okay, grand. Let's head on ahead. Just to repeat again, if you didn't hear in our podcast last week, we are going to Heroes and Villains Fan Fest in London at the end of the month. That's the 27th and 28th of May in the Olympia in London. So come along and say hi if you're going. Lots of the Gotham cast are going to be present at that event.
Absolutely. Going to be really, really good fun, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
It should be great fun.
David Mazouz, for one. Sean Pertwee, who we've had on the podcast interviewing. Butch Gilzean as well, Drew Powell, who we've also had on the podcast. And of course, it'll be Oswald Cobblepot. We met him last year up in Blackpool at another convention.
That's right. We have had him on the podcast as well for an interview, Robin Taylor.
That's true, from New York Comic Con. So really good to see the Gotham cast in London. It will be, yeah.
And we do also have one of the Gotham ladies, Jessica Lucas, who plays Tabitha Gallivan, is going to be there as well. Yeah.
Cool.
Should be great fun. So hopefully we'll get to see you there at the event. A couple more episodes to go before then, but we're really looking forward to heading over to London for that event. Absolutely.
And for all the Heroes and Villains Fan Fest coverage that we will do, plus, of course, all the episodes of Gotham Season 3 Mad City, you can find us on www.gothamtvpodcast.com/iTunes, or you can search Gotham TV Podcast on any other good podcast catcher if you are an Android fan, of course. Yeah.
Absolutely. Another big announcement that came out this week. We have confirmation that Gotham is coming back.
Yeah, it's number 4. Yeah, season 4. But it's been moved to Thursdays at 8 o'clock in the US, so there'll be no more Gotham Mondays.
Gotham Mondays hashtag is gone.
Gotham Monday hashtag is no more. Finito. But yeah, we get a 4th season. So that's really, really good news for all the Gothamites out there who are enjoying the show.
Absolutely.
Including ourselves.
Exactly. And it does mean that Gotham TV Podcast has been renewed.
For another season.
Yes.
Exactly.
Well, we'll see how we feel at the end of our 22 episodes for season 3. We're only on episode 6, but still looking forward to another season ahead.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it'll just be interesting to see how close the UK or Ireland align with the US. I suspect it'll be another long delay, though, to be honest.
Possibly, but nothing too negative this time. We've got loads more episodes to go, and we're getting them every single week as we go. So, season 3, episode 6. I think it's time to get into it, John.
Absolutely. Let's go.
Absolutely. This episode was directed by Nathan Hope. Nathan Hope was a cinematographer at the start of his career. He did the movie Hellraiser, Inferno. Cool. Not Hellraiser, not the big one in the cinema, one of the direct-to-DVD follow-ups, but great to see. He has also worked on Gotham before. He worked on season 1, episode 17 of Gotham, The Red Hood, which is interesting because last episode we talked all about the Red Hood gang. Yeah. So he didn't get to direct the Red Hood last time. Maybe that's the reason they looked a bit different from the way they did in season 1. But great to have Nathan back for this episode. And this is the first pairing for our writing team of Stephen Lillian and Brian Windurant. They've done a number of other shows together, and they're going to be coming back for Gotham for episode 13 and episode 17. The two of them writing the episodes together. So obviously a good team for Gotham.
Yeah, it was a really good episode. And it's interesting you talk about Nathan Hope being a cinematographer. I really thought that last scene with Jim and Leslie on the seats in the corridor in the hospital, and it just panning back very slowly, just the framing of that, it was it was so good. I mean, it really was kind of movie quality, and it was, it was just that whole thing of it just encapsulated their relationship sitting in silence after everything that's happened. And particularly in this episode with the choices Jim has to make, but a really nice shot, where he just pans the camera back slowly. Really beautiful.
Yeah, and an interesting choice for Gotham. They usually end on kind of a bit of a cliffhanger at the end of an episode. This one seems to close off the storyline and have that moment of silence as the camera pans back. So, yeah, very interesting. But, John, do you want to tell us what they gave us with your synopsis for the episode?
Sure. Jervis Tetch begins his revenge on Jim Gordon for the death of his sister Alice as he kidnaps and hypnotizes several civilians into life-threatening situations. He forces Jim to choose whom he will save. Meanwhile, Cobblepot realizes his true feelings for Nigma and plans to confess his love to him, but a familiar face comes back into Nigma's life. As Tetch makes his game more personal, the stakes get higher for Jim, as Tetch later kidnaps Valerie and Lee. At a macabre tea party, he again forces Gordon to make a choice. This time he asks, "Who do you love? Who should I kill?" As Jim answers, a single shot rings out as his choice is made.
Yes, so yeah, lots of choices in this episode.
A lot of choices, and yeah, I mean, really sort of evil Mad Hatter taking his revenge here on Jim. Like it's played so well. Is Jervis Tetch. I really, I mean, just the craziness, at that final tea party, amazing. Really well portrayed. Really sells this whole vengeance so well. And I really think it's a great storyline for Jim Gordon as well, because I mean, just the play off, between the two of them, I think is really top notch.
It works so well having Jim being this kind of character. He tends to, he's been the investigator many times before, but having a big storyline to himself in this episode feels like something that we were hoping to see in season 1 of Gotham, and has gotten lost with so many characters in there, so many villains in there. It's great to see Jim getting some big meaty roles as the episodes go on. But if this is your first time joining us, the way we cover our episodes is we talk about our 5 case notes, and then some notes possibly about the episode as we go through, hopefully covering off everything about the episode. I think there's a big one that happens in this episode, though, to start us off, John.
It's Nigmogglepot. It is the love between Cobblepot and Nigma. Nigmogglepot is effectively announced in this. We see the Penguin really start to believe what his feelings are towards Ed Nigma in this episode. He finds them hard to articulate, and he's tries several times in this episode to spill his feelings, his love for Ed Nigma. And I really liked how, it all came back to his mum again as well. To seize that opportunity, take it by the horns and really, express his feelings. Now, we don't see him do it actually to Ed Nigma. The chair is empty, and there may be a third person that has suddenly come into the mix to throw a spanner into the works.
That's right.
Where Chelsea Spack, who had played Kristen Kringle previously, is here now as Isabella. It's an interesting return. I am wondering, did dead Christina end up in the bunker to the Professor Strange's experiments in some way? Because the person is very stylized, the very white blonde hair, just the very sassy, but it is the previous actress. So like,
it's a really interesting idea.
There has to be something though, or maybe it is just to have that kind of doppelganger lookalike. But really interesting. I'm hoping it does kind of tie back into Strange in some way to make it more real. Not that it is just someone who looks like her. Yeah. I think that would be really cool.
That's really interesting, because I think the last time we saw Miss Kringle, it was just her hand inside of a snack machine in the GCPD, wasn't it? After the body had been placed there by Enigma. Versus Ed when they had their little switch over of characters,
yeah, and I wonder whether this will sort of reignite that sort of dual personality of Enigma. He has been very much comfortable in the skin of the Riddler and the evil persona, and all of a sudden that gooey, soft chocolate brownie center of Enigma suddenly rears its head again, that we've not seen in a while now from Enigma. And certainly, their eyes meet over a few bottles of fine wine.
Absolutely. Did you notice in the background of the scene in the off license that they were in buying the wine, there was a huge big love heart in the background? I thought that was quite a nice little touch. But this seems to be kind of a taken from an Alfred Hitchcock film. I think it was Marnie is the name of it. It was either that or Vertigo. Actually, it was probably Vertigo, where a character comes into the main character's life, who has a blonde wig and is played by the same actress as the woman he was in love with earlier on in the film, effectively. So a very similar kind of storyline here, where this blonde woman comes back into the life of Enigma. Interestingly, she comes back and the first thing she says to him pretty much is a riddle about time. So quite an interesting idea, and very interesting thoughts that it might be connected to.
Yeah, she really puts the hooks in, to be honest, with greeting him with a riddle. What was it? You struggle to regain me when I'm lost. You struggle to obtain me. What am I?
Yeah.
Time. Yeah. So, the hooks are in there because there's nothing more than a good old riddle.
Absolutely.
What's the riddle like?
Absolutely. So I'm wondering, really, in this situation, is it going to go down very well with Oswald? That the man he's about to profess his love to has refound the woman he loves. I kind of get a feeling that
this is going to go south.
Yeah, Isabella may not be around for a very long time.
Yeah. I don't think it's going to work out well. All the way through this episode, Cobblepot has been tripping over words, acting a bit of a fool because he's not been able to say anything. And obviously, Enigma is on his way to a candlelit meal with the roaring fire, and Oswald is practicing his lines, that how he's going to profess his feelings towards Enigma, and even throughout the episode, there's been that tic tac of, I continue to be in awe of you, Oswald, because he tells the school kid effectively that, join in with the other kids. It may not be as bad as you think, but if it is as bad as you think, well, then push them down the stairs.
I love that.
Like you do. So really, don't do that at home, children.
Yeah,
please don't.
I do like that, but that's obviously how Oswald basically created himself from the start. If he didn't fit in, he'd just kill someone.
Yeah.
So again, I think the writing is kind of on the wall here for poor Isabella, who doesn't know what she's walked into here.
Yeah, and I think another honorary mention is Olga, the housekeeper from the old country. Here feeding Oswald huge amounts of food, almost like a replacement mum, I think, here. From the same country, but probably needs to get some English speaking lessons.
I did love that little moment with her where he's kind of going, I have no idea what you said, no idea what you're talking about. Then she says, "Da," and he goes, my mother taught me that. It means yes. You definitely need to get English lessons. Yeah, very good. And possibly the reason for that gigantic amount of food, both at the start with Olga and at the end with him sitting waiting for Ed to arrive, is because obviously in the comic books and the more traditional version of Oswald Cobblepot is quite a heavy set character. He's quite a heavy character, very different from this version of Oswald that we see in the show.
Well, she's given him a good feed, put it that way. He will be, a size 50 waist in no time with that amount of food. I mean, I was looking at it whilst he was practicing his lines, and I mean, there was an entire tray of like stuffed peppers in front of him, plus like, I don't know, it was a roast pig's head or something on the table. So, I mean, yeah, Oswald is he's probably going to fill out in the next few years with that amount of feeding from good old Olga. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think he might. That could be the subtitle for season 4. You know, is season 4 Gotham? Oswald gets bigger. You know,
the waddle returns.
Possibly. I think it's time to get on to number 2. The other, obviously, huge thing that went on in this episode is really all about the choices of Jervis Tetch and the choices that he makes Jim make throughout the episode, really. The first one at the start I thought was really interesting, kidnapping the married couple and standing them at the top of a bridge and then sending a child out underneath a car, basically, and making Jim choose which one he's going to save first.
It's the red wedding, but not as we know it, Jim. But not as we know it. Yeah, that was not the best honeymoon. Really? The flight was over quickly for the two lovebirds, unfortunately, as Jim heads for the child to save the child. Understandable.
Yeah, I think so. I do like how it's twisted by Jervis a bit later on as why is it that you went for the child? Well, obviously it's because you hate marriage, Jim. The last woman that you saw in a wedding dress was holding a shotgun. Don't think it was that. I think it was just the natural human instinct of trying to save the child, right?
Yeah, although presumably Oswald would have just walked away. Because to begin with, he wasn't so keen on going to the school to open up, the new school or whatever. But he loves kids. He absolutely loves kids. But yeah, interesting choice, really there. And then obviously this kind of game of cat and mouse, hide and seek continues as he goes to another kind of location where there's a big telescope, and they have a somewhat face-to-face telephone call, which is kind of interesting. I like that. And he also sees here then Valerie being kidnapped, and he learns only later that Leslie Tompkins has been kidnapped.
That's right.
When he tries to call her to warn her that Tetch potentially is going after her. Yeah, so, really interesting.
I did love that conversation between the Hatter and Jim on the phone. I thought that was really good as Jim keeps hanging up on him and then finally, after hanging up on him twice, he gets his opportunity to kind of niggle back at Mad Hatter, saying that his sister hated him, that this is not Jim's fault, that Jim's just going to walk away until he finds out that Valerie's been kidnapped. So, but a great moment there and a great performance in that scene as the Mad Hatter gets more and more angry with Jim.
Yeah, I mean, I love how the Mad Hatter just becomes more unhinged as Jim effectively is telling him the truth. You know, it's a really great performance here, I think. So good. He's wanting to be in control. He's wanting to be smart, but underneath that, it's the unhinged craziness of the Mad Hatter, of Jervis Tetch, which is just so believable.
Yeah. I'm so glad they cast someone as good as Benedict Samuel in this role. He's really
good.
Knocking it out of the park in the role. The other big choice that we get as well is the doctor and the journalist, the substitutes for Lee and Valerie, where Jim has to choose to kill either one of them, and the other one gets electrocuted. So setting up our end scene, and Jim, because he's a valiant man, decides to choose neither, and both of them are killed. So just showing again, Jervis is completely unhinged and willing to kill anybody in the city to get what he wants.
Yes, and ultimately with Valerie and Lee, that Jim will be forced to make a choice. That was really good. And of course, you have the GCPD coming in as well on this particular case, but Jim then decides to ignore them effectively and leave them out of his pursuit of Jervis when it gets personal down to Valerie and Lee both being kidnapped. For that really awesome tea party. I love, this is one of the things I love about the Mad Hatter, just the whole Alice in Wonderland vibe.
Absolutely.
And just how surreal it can get with him. And this was, I mean, just really good. I mean, even down to the tray with Jim's Gordon's gun on the tray, and his two thugs next to him. Kind of the stand-in for the Tweedle brothers. In this case, Dumfries and Diva Tweed return to Gotham.
Yeah.
So, really enjoyed that. And it was just a great tense atmosphere. It really was built nicely. I loved this. I think, you were kind of going, who is he going to pick here?
Oh, definitely.
This is so good. And you are kind of thinking, and I know this is one of our, other notes, but, was Barbara here? Because there is a third person. And it's really interesting why she's not there. And yet Jervis Tetch has just chosen, Leslie and Valerie.
Absolutely, yeah. Just to come back quickly on the Alice in Wonderland touches in the episode as well, because obviously we've had the Tweedle brothers before, but I loved the idea that when Jim's having the conversation with the Hatter over the phone and he's looking through the telescope, on the side of it, it has Through the Looking Glass, which was the second Alice in Wonderland novel.
Yeah.
And obviously there's also the guy who leads Jim all the way around, who's painted white. So he is the White Rabbit in the episode. So, well known from Alice in Wonderland as well. So loads of nice connections there.
The albino man. Yeah, really good. Really nice touches, throughout all of this. Jim unhinges him, tries to effectively disrupt his plan by bringing it back to his sister. She was happy that she died because she was free of her brother who was crazy. Yeah. That there was no love lost there, that the ideal picture in Jervis's mind of what his relationship with his sister is being gradually eroded by Jim, and just the reaction, just like him breaking down, the eyes watering, the frothing mouth, just so intensely good. Really enjoyed it. Yeah,
it was really cool. I love his description of Lee and Val here as well, saying Lee still has love for you, Jim. Valerie has hope for you. Nice little differentiation between the two characters there, what it is about them. Lee's kind of understands the type of person he is and still loves him, but realizes she can't be with him. Val still hasn't gotten to that point, so she still hopes he can change and become the person that she believes he can be.
Yeah.
Lovely choice. So the big question then comes to, Jim says kill Lee here. So I don't know, why did he choose Lee? Why did he choose Lee to get shot? My feeling is that he knew Jervis would shoot the other person because he is Jim. He's a detective. So I think he had that moment with Lee at the end of the episode where he says, about that thing I said, and she says, not now. And that's when it goes to silence and goes to credits. So I think Jim was about to tell her there that I knew he'd shoot her. That's why I chose you. That kind of a double play there.
Yeah, and it was a really nice twist as well that I think Jervis does here, where he starts off saying, tell me which one you love. Mm-hmm. And after that, it's tell me which one I should kill.
Yeah.
Really kind of twisting the knife into Jim here. I would say it's the same thing, absolutely. I think in his mind, if he had said Valerie, Jervis probably would have still shot Valerie. And by saying Lee, he shoots Valerie.
Yeah.
Because he knows that as soon as Valerie hears that and she's shot, it's over between the two of them. Yeah. She's like, I'm not going anywhere near you, crazy, ever again. Whereas, it just, the tension between Jim and Leslie then now it is going to be unbearable. And now you've got the mobster wedding coming into it. So, I mean, this is just really becoming more complex for both Leslie and Jim, and also with Mario now. So, really interesting.
Yeah, definitely. So on to our next point. You did kind of mention it there a little bit. So Babs and Tabs, back in the Sirens again. I love talking about these two. They're really great together.
Loved it.
Just the first little mention that that Tabitha was successful in getting Butch Gilzean back. He's back eating red meat and dealing with the two of them, basically. So, nice little moment there where Barbara doesn't seem too jealous of Tabitha, but is asking whether the relationship has been rekindled between the two of them. And Tabitha smiles and says, we'll find out, but not yet. Kind of thing. So, like that. But yeah, the big moment really is that Babs is the one that told Jervis Tetch all of the information that he needed to trap Jim and to get the two women in his life and get them into the room and find out which one to kill. So, once again, Barbara is still messing with Jim's life.
Big time. Yeah. Really, just showed the Machiavellianness of Barbara now. You know, she's got such a good line in this show by being connected to Jim Gordon and almost kind of being free from his wrath to an extent.
Absolutely.
You know, it's definitely developed into a love-hate relationship, but he also knows that she's his key to the underworld, that she will divulge as much to him about the underworld of Gotham as she will divulge to the underworld of Gotham about him. So it's kind of a delicate balance, but, you know, she has a really great little position here, along with Tabitha, in Gotham society now. And I think it really comes up so well. And of course, with it, she's flippant and sarcastic to boot. You know, Jim is chucking around liquor bottles, smashing them in the bar, shooting up the walls. And as he kind of rushes out, you know, she kind of chases after him with the phrase, "We'll send you the bill for the damage," you know? She seems unperturbed by his mood swings. And she's settled in quite nicely to her craziness and her dysfunctional relationship with Jim, really nicely.
She just always seems to want to be involved in his life. That kind of seems to be it, but just not in a great way. Talk about your crazy exes, really.
Yeah. Basically.
But let's go on to our fourth point. Captain Barnes, we see some of his superpowers in this episode as he gets more and more angry, and his face kind of bulges up a bit with the strength and power, and he bends the metal chair.
Yeah.
Quite interesting. So still no reveal of who the character is. We still don't know. It could be another couple of episodes before we see that. But yeah, it looks like he's now become pretty super strong. Yeah,
he's building up his strength. Also, Bullock notices that he's not using his crutch anymore, which is important. And I wonder, you know, does the strength just come on when he gets mad, a bit Hulkish, to an extent? Or is it that he is able to kind of control it? Because he does kind of get that red monster eye, but then he's able to rein it back in. Like, I was wondering, was he going to attack the albino dude, the White Rabbit?
Yeah.
You know, what does he become uncontrollable? And at this moment in time, he seems to have some kind of handle on it.
I'm not too sure if Bullock hadn't interrupted him at that moment. I'm thinking he may have actually attacked the White Rabbit for information.
Yeah, but it shows the control that he has, and I'm also wondering if he is going to start raiding the stocks of Alice's blood. Like, I'm wondering, you know, Bullock's now got this hint that, you know, he's better at least and can walk without the aid of a crutch. You know, will it be that Leslie starts to see that maybe a couple of vials of Alice's blood have gone missing, and that Captain Barnes is kind of shooting up with this stuff in order to maybe increase his strength, and maybe that's when it gets out of hand.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, lucky. I think lucky for the kid that Bullock arrived in at that particular moment. Good man, Bullock.
Yeah, but poor kid, poor White Rabbit man. Basically, just continually repeating on a loop. I have a message for you, Jim Gordon. I mean, you know, Tetch basically has just let him out into the world to deliver the message, yet the loop of hypnotism is still going round and round in the poor guy's head. It kind of reminded me of Jessica Jones with the kid who was told by the Purple Man to go and stand by the railings and not move forever.
Yeah.
And kind of later in the episode, you just see him still stood by the railings. It's just, you know, this psychological damage has been inflicted on the poor White Rabbit dude. And he's just repeating this.
It's such a good touch, though, because I didn't recognize that that's what he was doing. He was saying over and over again, effectively, get me Jim Gordon. I have another message for him. I have a second message for him. I love the little touch. Yeah. It was only when Jim arrived that he was able to change and give the next message, the next set of the message to Jim. Thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
The fact that the Mad Hatter called out that you need to go back and see an old friend, I thought he was speaking about Oswald because he said he knew everything about Jim. I thought it was going to be a reference to go see Oswald. He has your next piece of the puzzle. But the White Rabbit had identified himself as hello friend when he met Jim the first time. So that's who he was talking about. So that was quite an interesting touch, though.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think on to our fifth case note, and that's the chit chat between Valerie Vale and Leslie Tompkins.
It's just good to see these two characters interact.
Yeah,
because they've obviously both got a relationship with Jim. It's just good to see the two of them have a moment. And I like that Valerie's still using her investigation skills. She was supposed to be setting up an interview with Lee, asking more and more detail about Alice Tetch and her blood. And then she kind of switches it and asks the question that we all really want to know, that there is some more detail behind. We don't get an answer to it, unfortunately, but why did Lee choose to move back to Gotham? So her response is, I didn't come for James Gordon, if that's what you're asking. Don't think that's what Valerie was asking. I think as a journalist, she is genuinely curious here as to why Lee did move back to Gotham. What's your thoughts? I've got a theory.
Well, certainly Jervis Tetch knows the true identity of her fiance, and so does Valerie now, of course. But I mean, and also I think that in Valerie, at least it's, Leslie Tompkins has already been on a face-to-face with one of Jim's other exes with Barbara, and that didn't work out too well. And I mean, at least Valerie is saying, and I like how they work together to sort of then, after her persistence really wasn't paying off, and Leslie said, like, can we just get out of here? That they kind of work together. But I think, Valerie has some kind of lowdown. There's some kind of something on the streets or whatever that this blood has got special properties, and she's really wanting to find that out. And I think with Lee, it may also be that she has an idea of who Mario is.
She knows, absolutely.
Yeah. And she certainly knows now after the tea party.
Yeah, but remember, she did threaten Ed with her father-in-law, so she definitely knows that Mario is involved in the gangster business. I'm wondering if it is just simply that, obviously, Falcone left Gotham to Oswald previously. I wonder if this is just Mario coming back to Gotham to reclaim what his father left behind, and that's why Lee had to come,
Maybe, but it's also that Mario is trying to not be in that same business. Now, whether that is not true at all, but he's obviously, a successful surgeon,
absolutely,
and medic. So whether he's even got time to do mafioso stuff, I don't know. But at the moment, there's nothing there that I suspect is that he's being trying to pull the wool over Leslie's eyes. I think it's actually quite genuine. I think what might happen is that, again, with this whole tea party, with the choice that Jim had to make, that is now hanging in the air. He really does, potentially, might just turn because Jim, will he steal Leslie back from him? Will Leslie, get so, sort of, not confused isn't the right word, but, just so, sort of upset about what's gone on that she too becomes conflicted about her own feelings. So, I have a feeling that whatever happens, Mario may also turn, on a dime because of the involvement of Jim Gordon in some way, and reconnect with his father's business. Put aside the profession of a doctor and move to inherit his rightful place in the Gotham underworld.
Maybe, but yeah, definitely poor Lee can't get out of Jim's life.
Not at all. Really.
Poor thing. But that's it for our 5 points for the episode. A couple of little notes from the episode. I think our first one, as it is each week, we started our competition of the Bullockism of the week each week, which is our our quote from Harvey Bullock. I think I'm just going to choose one that's really kind of a Bullock moment.
He's been very functional at the moment, very operational.
Yeah.
He hasn't done the Bullockisms that we were expecting in the last two episodes.
No, unfortunately.
Unfortunately not, which is a shame for our competition. However, but I think it's quite nice to integrate more into the plot line.
Absolutely.
More fully, rather than just simply kind of doing one-off quips. And I think that's important for Harvey Bullock to do, because, he was so central in season 1, and he has gradually kind of, as the GCPD has kind of gone into the background a bit, that's happened to him, and he was just doing that's why we did the Bullockism of the week. He was kind of one-off quips, which were great, and it really sort of lighten the mood of Gotham, but it's nice to see him a bit more integral in some of this plotline,
Absolutely. So I think the one we've chosen for this week, Bullock's moment of the week, if you will, is just his moment with Jim when he comes to him at the end and says, "Why didn't you come to me, Jim?" Effectively, they're brothers at this stage. They've worked together so well over the years now that Jim's been in Gotham. But then Jim kind of says to him, I'm doing my best here. And he immediately accepts it. He says, you did what you thought was right.
Yeah, it was a nice touch to reconnect these two partners, I think. Definitely.
Absolutely. And just a couple of little moments from the episode that I really enjoyed. And what about this one, John? Our Batman 66 moment is the bomb in the shoebox for Nicky the Nails place that Ed gives to his secretary and says, put it outside the door, ring the doorbell, and then light it and run away, which is an instruction that I don't think any secretary in the world or personal assistant in the world has ever gotten.
Absolutely. To be honest, I think this, along with him giving two sets of itineraries, one for the duties as the mayor, and also then the duties as the kingpin of Gotham's underworld.
Absolutely.
I thought this was really just a great little Batman 66 moment, both that and then giving his secretary, the shoebox to blow up Nicky the Nails place. I'd like to know a bit more about Nicky the Nails place. I presume just another rival gang.
Yeah.
But it also seems like it could be a beauty parlor as well.
Possibly.
Possibly.
Or it may not be anymore if the personal assistant has done her job. And set off
exactly. So this was a nice little crazy moment, I think, for Gotham in this episode.
Absolutely.
Yeah, really liked it.
What do you think overall, John?
Well, I would give 4 shoebox bombs out of 5. I think the central Jervis Tetch and Jim Gordon plot, following the White Rabbit, I just thought it was really well done. It really brought an intensity to this episode of Gotham. I think it reignited Jim's hugely complex relationship between all of the 3 ladies that he's been involved with, Leslie, Barbara, and now Valerie Vale. So I thought this was a really good episode, and to see Nig Mogglepot come to fruition is just so, I think it's really important, the two of them are like brothers in crime, but it is more than that. There's a tenderness there. There's a respect. And I thought that was really important. I really want to see whether, Oswald can get the words out, and tell Ed his true feelings. But having said that, no sooner is it than there is a complication with Isabella in the form of Christine Kringle to an extent. Yeah. So it'll be really intriguing to see how that kind of plays out and how that disrupts this blossoming romance between the two kings of the underworld in Gotham. Yeah,
absolutely. And interesting to find out if there's any connection with Professor Strange as well. It'd be great to see him back.
I think that would be really cool to have that kind of connection.
I like it.
Otherwise it is just a doppelganger, and that's fine as well. But I think just given what's happened in Gotham, the crazier the plot, and certainly with Professor Strange, I think the more reasonable and sensible it sounds for the world of Gotham.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, we have had the doppelganger before. We have had 5114A, Bruce's doppelganger.
Yeah, definitely.
So that is absolutely possible. Maybe there's a whole gang of doppelgangers that are in there. Don't particularly know why they choose Kristen Kringle specifically to be a doppelganger, other than the connection to Ed because he was in the hospital. So,
but if the Court of Owls had identified Enigma as this new form of supervillain in Gotham,
absolutely,
had identified that, you know, one of the people who could really undermine him is Christine Kringle, then why not? You know, it's interesting because we've not seen the Owls for a while now.
We haven't.
And Fish is still on the run.
Absolutely. And 514A was kidnapped by the Court of Owls last time we saw them. So
you know, a lot sort of in the mix here.
Definitely. Really interesting. I'm really hoping that Valerie pulls out of the gunshot wound that happens in this episode. Yeah, for me, I'm the same, John. I think this is a really good example of Gotham. I really liked the central storyline and all the side offshoots. It was a very straight down the line kind of storyline, but some great characters in here. And once again, Benedict Samuel knocks it out of the park as Jervis Tetch. Really, really enjoyed it. So thanks so much for joining us for this episode, listeners. Really good to have you on board again for another episode. So just after we finished recording, we got some feedback in from Claire Payne, one of our listeners from season 3 of Gotham, or for season 3 of Gotham so far. She starts off with her Bullockism of the week for episode 5.
Yeah, absolutely. Claire says that Detective Bullock to Edward Nigma whilst investigating the shooting of the Red Hood gang is her Bullockism of the week for episode 5. Detective Bullock, it goes, even before you went crazy, I never liked you. And Ed responds to Bullock, your zipper is down. Yes. So.
Love that.
Flying low without a license.
Even before you went crazy, I never liked you. There's the Bullockism of the week. Thanks so much for that, Claire. Claire also sent us in feedback for the 6 episodes so far in the season.
Absolutely. Thank you, Claire.
Yeah, great to have you catch up with us now, Claire. So I think Claire's going to be on board watching our episodes as we go. So thanks so much for the feedback. Claire starts off with, impressive is the word I would use to describe the first 6 episodes of Gotham. The 6-month time jump has really given the characters time to grow. I was a little skeptical about Jim becoming a bounty hunter, but the change of career has definitely brought out a different angle to his character. Seeing the Court of Owls as soon as we have has been really good, as it gives us an understanding of the depths of control they have in Gotham City. Their signature theme music really stands out whenever one of their characters is present. Yeah, really interesting thought.
Yeah, I think that's really right. Actually, the difference in the dynamic that Jim Gordon has now that he's still. It's consistent being the bounty hunter with being in the police to some extent, but it is outside of the GCPD, and it does really add some levels to Jim's character.
Definitely. I
think certainly in this episode 6, we kind of see that he goes to the GCPD, he involves them in Jervis Tetch's plan, but when it comes down to the 2 ladies of Valerie and Leslie, he feels he has to do it by himself and hit out on his own.
That's right.
Independent of the GCPD. And I think that only kind of, it works even more so. I mean, he would have done that in the past, but I think the fact he's a bounty hunter, now, although not a successful one, I hasten to add, according to some in Gotham.
Val was telling him just to go back to the police force.
Yeah, exactly. But, it really makes it feel right what he's doing. For someone as a stickler for protocol and the GCPD, him going off and being kind of inconsistent, sometimes you had to just take a step back to believe that that's what he was doing. Whereas here, I think it definitely makes a difference. Yeah,
definitely. And as for the music for the Court of Owls, I'm definitely going to be looking forward to that when they return later on in the series, which I'm sure they will. Claire goes on to say, Sirens is another visually beautiful addition with the live music.
Definitely.
It's really interesting for a nightclub to be one of the go-to places for information again. Ivy's aging process was done really well. I'm just glad it made sense in the storyline. I also really enjoyed Marv as one of the monsters that had escaped from Indian Hill. Yeah, so great points there over the last over the last 5 episodes. I know we talked about a lot of them in depth. Great to hear your take on them, though. I would have liked to see a bit more of Miss Peabody, as she was a very valuable character in season 2. Very true. Such a sad loss to lose Peabody that early in the show. David Mazouz has done a brilliant job in playing two Bruces. Again, another new element this season in question was why 514A was made. Yeah, there's still that open question. He's with the Court of Owls now.
Yeah, he's been kidnapped, and to see why he was made is going to be really interesting moving forward. I think as well, totally with you, Claire, on Miss Peabody. She was such a great character, and of course, Professor Strange is still alive, and it would have been really good to see the two of them hook up in some capacity again.
Yeah.
As former employees together. They work so well together, and she really, really did, I think, add even more to Professor Strange's character. She was so good. Yeah, really sad to see Miss Peabody finished off with a rather quick aging process.
It was. But you never know. It is Gotham. There could be another Miss Peabody out there.
I'm sure there must be. And who knows? We do have Kris Kringle to some extent back. So maybe Miss Peabody will be reinflated to get rid of those wrinkles. And she might be back in the game, so to speak.
Yes.
Probably not, though, of course.
Zombie Peabody.
Yeah, Zombie Peabody. Claire goes on to say, each episode I feel gets better and better with the introduction of Jervis Tetch is fantastic. He is totally different in how I expected him to be. My heart was in my mouth when he hypnotized the man in the Sirens nightclub to balance on the edge of the chair. His feud with Jim over Alice's death feels like a thriller, especially in this recent episode. The scene in Leslie's and Mario's house was superb. The intensity and change of character in Jervis was hypnotic in itself.
Absolutely.
Completely. He is a great addition to Gotham.
Absolutely.
I would say, for me, up there with Ed Nigma, the Riddler, in terms of what he brings to this show. I mean, he's one of my favorite Batman villains, so I'm going to be biased. Of course I am, but he is really, really good in this, and I think he gives a lot now with this feud with Jim. It gives Jim Gordon as a character a lot to react off, and I think that's again another great solid aspect to this season, especially for Jim's character.
Claire goes on to say she's absolutely delighted that we have Mayor Cobblepot and his housekeeper Olga. She says she tweeted Deborah Unger, who plays the character of Olga, to find out if Grace Van Daal's head is still an ornament at Cobblepot Manor. Deborah's reply was, Olga has definitely removed it, and a box is far too good for that woman. Really good. I love the cast on Twitter. The cast, even some of the minor players in the show, always have some great fun with the fans. So nice one, Claire.
Yeah, you can imagine Olga dusting it with a feather duster or something to make sure that that reminder to Cobblepot of what he's been through still remains fresh and dust free. Absolutely. Claire says, I really love the opening scene where Oswald is explaining how he feels about Ed and has every intention in telling Ed that day. The Chief of Staff Ed is evidently organised and how serious he is taking his role. I don't like what Ed did to Butch. Butch for me is someone who has taught Oswald a lot about the Gotham underworld. I don't want to get into character analysis too deeply, but I can almost see Ed getting bored in his current position and eventually needing to do his own thing. I did chuckle when he gave the secretary a device to be placed outside Nicky the Nail's place. Knock twice, light, then run. Yeah, definitely. I think Ed is going to be a bit duplicitous in this season, and I think I agree with you. I think he's going to want to move on from his second in command. I wonder whether his intentions that he describes to Butch, whilst it was a red herring for Butch and he betrays him, undermines him, whether actually there is a significant grain of truth in that. I wonder if that's going to happen, and maybe even kind of get advanced and accelerated a bit now by meeting Isabella, and if that's going to interrupt Oswald and Ed.
Nick Mogglepot.
Nick Mogglepot. Yeah, exactly. Then, you know, I think that could be a really good bit of chaos coming in from left field for this seemingly solid Ed Nigma and Oswald Cobblepot.
Yeah. Finally, Claire says Oswald's hesitation in telling Ed how he feels was really lovely. A different emotion we are seeing from Oswald found me wanting Oswald to tell Ed so much. Does Ed feel the same way? We'll have to wait and see, especially as Ed just happened to meet the blonde bombshell Isabella, who has the uncanny resemblance to Miss Kringle. Was this a chance meeting, or is the Court of Owls involved? Interesting. She's got the same thoughts as you do, John.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can't wait to see how this evolves. I'm enjoying all aspects of season 3 so far, and absolutely delighted Gotham is coming back for a 4th season.
Absolutely, Claire. One for Gotham coming back as a fourth, for its 4th season. And yeah, I mean, I definitely feel there is something Court of Owlsy here going on with, this lady, Isabella, who looks suspiciously like Christine Kringle. It will also actually, didn't mention this in the podcast, but it'll be interesting to see if Leslie happens to come across Isabella, what she thinks.
Maybe
be really interesting, because obviously in the last episode she gave Ed a pretty decent right hook there for what he did to Christine Kringle.
That's very true.
So yeah, I'm hoping this adds another layer of intrigue, mystery, and chaos to an already mad city.
Absolutely. Do you know what I love about having the opportunity to finish our podcast and then come back and re-record this? I've just thought about another character. It's also a possibility that Clayface may be involved here as well. Clayface, who took the place of Jim Gordon last season. It's a possibility that he could have also come back as Chris Kringle. What do you think?
That is a really interesting point.
There you go.
Yeah.
Just theories at this stage. Loads more of season 3 to cover. And thanks so much for sending on your feedback, Claire. If you want to send in your feedback, just email us at feedback@gothamtvpodcast.com. Pop over to the website at gothamtvpodcast.com and leave us a voicemail if you want to do it that way. Or follow us over on our group on Facebook at facebook.com/groups/GothamTVPodcast.
Absolutely.
And make sure you keep those bullockisms coming into us. If you have a bullockism that we haven't talked about, send it in to us. If we've already talked about it, send it in. You'll enter the draw to win our little Harvey Bullock pop and some other prizes later on in the season.
Yeah, keep sending in those bullockisms and being with a chance to win a vinyl pop of the Bullock.
Absolutely. Thanks so much.
Yeah, so our episodes are out every Wednesday on YouTube, or you can listen to them on our podcast channel, gothamtvpodcast.com/iTunes or any other good podcast catcher. We will be back for episode 7 of Mad City Red Queen next Wednesday, the 24th of May. Red Queen.
Who's the Red Queen?
I know. Interesting.
Very interesting. Thanks so much, Gothamites, for joining us. We'll talk to you again next week.
Yeah, as always, thank you so much for listening, and we will speak with you next time. Bye.
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 Thanks for being a Butch supporter. Butch loves you, baby.